Jonathan Majors' trial gets pushed back. Let's talk about it. My name is Jamahl Kersey. I am the principal attorney at Kersey Law. We're a boutique criminal defense firm in San Diego, California. And so we're talking about Jonathan Majors' trial getting continued. And first of all, I want to shout out to Flavio Souza for the video recommendation. I definitely appreciate the comments, the support, and the video recommendation. And for everybody, if you have video suggestions that you'd like to see me shoot, let me know in the comments below. And if it's good and I think it'll be useful to everybody, then I'll get it done. So anyhow, Jonathan Majors, he had trial scheduled for August 3rd, which was yesterday. And this case was on a pretty fast track. From the end of March to going into early August, that's only around 4 months. That's something that you would normally do for somebody who is in custody, because you don't want to have your client waiting around in custody any longer than necessary. So you might say, hey, we're going to fast track this case and go to trial within 3 months or 2 months or 4 months. But if you have a client who's out of custody, usually a trial wouldn't happen any sooner than say 6 to 8 months or even up to a year on a misdemeanor case. That wouldn't be outside of the ordinary. So they definitely went with a shorter timeline. And I think, at the end of the day, his attorney has been asserting from day one that Jonathan Majors is innocent and that his name will be cleared and that this case will ultimately be dismissed. So in that sense, if you have a client who's adamant about their innocence, then obviously they don't want to wait 6 months later to get their day in court. And so she would have requested, the soonest possible date, given, her need to be able to go through the discovery with the client, do any necessary investigation and the like. So we had trial call scheduled for yesterday, and realistically, you would have your pretrial motions, to determine what evidence should come in before the jury, what evidence should stay out, and then you're basically on to jury selection. So that really could have started or was scheduled to start yesterday, but the DA requested a continuance, and they were saying that, hey, we need additional time for discovery issues. And I think that is a legitimate reason, and I'll get to that in a moment, but I don't think it's the main reason. In my last video on the Jonathan Majors case, I had mentioned that this is going to be an issue for the DA because they have an alleged victim who's out in the UK, and there's a reason why she's not going to want to come back to the United States. And that reason is based on the defense's investigation. We know his attorney has been saying from the start that he's innocent and that he's in fact the victim of domestic violence on the part of his ex-girlfriend. And the defense ended up presenting information to NYPD, and that information was so compelling that it led to a probable cause finding on the part of NYPD. And so that means that they had reason to believe that, number one, a crime has been committed, and number two, Jonathan Majors' ex-girlfriend committed that crime. And this means that she is subjected to being arrested if she comes back to New York. So in the end, why would she want to come back to New York if she's at risk of her herself being arrested? That is going to be a big problem for the DA, because obviously, just for the purpose of testifying against Jonathan Majors, why is she going to want to come back if there's a risk of her getting arrested herself? So I think that's going to be a major issue, and that's probably the main reason why the DA requested the continuance. But since they stated the issue of discovery, I do think this is where it is legitimate, because obviously the defense presented them with information. Some of that has been leaked to the public in terms of the nightclub videos and text messages. The DA, if they are responsible and ethical, they have a duty to sort out these issues, right? So they should take this information and at least, confront her with them to see, what the validity is. The DA's office should have their investigator reach out to her in order to see, hey, he's saying that you actually assaulted him. He's also saying that he did not cause the injuries that you sustained. Like, what is your take on this, right? And if she ultimately agrees that, yes, she actually assaulted him and that he did not cause her injuries, then the DA has an ethical obligation to provide that information to the defense, and that would obviously probably lead to a dismissal of the charges. So that's one thing The other part is, let's just say they fully intend to move forward with this trial. DAs are competitive. Defense attorneys are competitive as well. We as trial lawyers, we want to win. We're not going into these trials to lose. And so the DA doesn't want to look like a fool in trial. So if there's this evidence that points to Jonathan Majors' innocence and suggests that she was actually the aggressor, that's probably not going to be a case that they want to put in front of a jury, right? Because they don't want to look like a fool putting on this case in front of a jury when it's something that they should have either offered a much better deal or dismissed the case. I think that is a legitimate discovery issue that they have to sort out in terms of being able to present this information to the alleged victim and getting her take on it. So again, Jonathan Majors has a right to have his trial on the date set, but the judge can grant a request for a continuance upon the finding of good cause. And if there's outstanding discovery issues, that's going to meet the definition of good cause. So even if he was saying, hey, no, I don't want a continuance, I want the trial to move forward today, the judge would grant that continuance. But it's going to be on a short leash. And as you can see, the trial date has just been moved to September. So it's not a whole lot of time that this trial date is getting moved out. I think in the end, this case should be dismissed. I think the DA is going to have a hard time trying to get this alleged victim to come back to New York, knowing that there's a possibility that she could be arrested. And if you don't have a victim, then you have no case. But I want to issue a word of caution because I don't want anybody to take what I just said as thinking that it is an appropriate trial strategy to think that, hey, my girlfriend or my wife is not going to show up to court. This is a very case-specific scenario in that, she's an out-of-country alleged victim. There's also been a probable cause finding that she actually committed a crime. Those are two major factors in terms of why this is working out. But if it's your girlfriend or your wife and you guys live in the same home and there's not anything to suggest that she actually attacked you and you were the victim in the case, then, this is not going to be an appropriate strategy. There's a lot of different other ways that can be used, but banking on your wife or your girlfriend not showing up to court is really not an appropriate strategy. That's banking on hope, and that's not really a good idea. Well, we'll wait until September to see what happens unless we get a sooner announcement that the DA is deciding to dismiss this case. Let me know what you think is going to happen. Do you think we're going to make it to trial? Do you think this case goes in front of a jury? Or do you think they reach a deal? Might the DA dismiss the case? Let me know your thoughts below. If you got something out of this, please show me some love and hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications so you never miss a new video when it drops. As always, I want to thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace.